Déjà vu. That strange, flickering moment when the world feels familiar. Like you've seen it all before. The sound, the smell, the way someone turns their head or says your name. Most of us laugh it off. A trick of the brain, we tell ourselves. A glitch in the system. But what if it's not just a moment? What if it lingers, grows stronger, and starts pulling at the edges of reality? These aren't just stories of déjà vu. These are 4 chilling accounts where that feeling didn't fade, it deepened. And for the people who lived through them, it became something far more disturbing than déjà vu ever should. I always thought déjà vu was just a brain hiccup, a momentary glitch that everyone shrugs off. But in 2020, I experienced something I still don't have words for. It didn't feel like I was remembering the past. It felt like I was remembering the future. And the worst part? Every time I tried to change what I remembered, the outcome stayed exactly the same. Back then, I lived in a small upstairs apartment above a bakery in northern Michigan. It was quiet, remote, exactly what I needed after a messy breakup and quitting my job. I worked freelance online, didn't have many friends in town, and spent most of my nights alone, watching television or reading until I fell asleep. The first moment happened on a Wednesday night. I was brushing my teeth when I had this weird, detailed flash, the smell of cinnamon from downstairs, the hum of my fridge, and the exact second the bathroom light flickered. A second later, it all happened. Perfectly. I actually laughed. Thought I was just tired. But the next day I made coffee and suddenly knew I was about to spill it. I tried to stop myself. I really did. I grabbed the mug with both hands and moved slow. But somehow it still slipped. The cup cracked, and coffee splashed across my keyboard. I started keeping a notebook, writing down the flashes before they happened. Mail at 1:14 p.m. Small white envelope. Neighbor drops a bag of oranges, one rolls down the steps. Phone buzzes. Spam call. Area code 917. Every single thing came true. Even conversations. I knew what people were going to say, even people I hadn't met yet. I'd hear their voice before they spoke. Like reality was being broadcast on a 5-second delay. It should have felt powerful, but it felt wrong. Because no matter how much I knew, I couldn't stop any of it. After a week, the dream started. I was standing in my living room at night, the lights off. The walls looked melted, like wax, slowly shifting in the dark. And there was a shadow in the hallway, human-shaped, but with no face. Every dream, it stood there, motionless, like it was waiting for something. It would say the same thing every time, in a hollow, almost robotic voice. You've already seen the end. I'd wake up soaked in sweat, my hands shaking, but it always happened at exactly 3:33 a.m. I started leaving the lights on, slept with the television running. Anything to avoid the dream. But on the 9th night, I woke up standing in the hallway, facing the bathroom. The light was off, and my mouth was moving. I wasn't speaking, but something was. I blacked out, woke up on the floor. The clock? 3:33 a.m. When I checked my phone later, I found a video I don't remember recording. Just me standing in the dark, whispering something over and over. I played it back, slowed it down, boosted the volume. I was saying, "Don't try to change it. It's already done." I moved out the next week. No goodbye. No explanation. I just packed a bag and drove south until I couldn't feel that pressure behind my eyes anymore. But sometimes it comes back. Usually when I'm alone. Usually at night. That tight, static feeling, like my brain is tuning into something it's not supposed to hear. I still get flashes, tiny moments, a door creaking open before it does. A sentence I've never heard before, echoing in my head just seconds before someone says it. And worst of all, I've started having the dream again. But now, the shadow moves closer. It doesn't speak anymore. It just points, and I'm terrified of the day I find out what it's pointing at. Because whatever it is, I think it's already happened, and I think it's waiting for me to remember. I haven't told many people this, because I know how it sounds, but when I was 16, something happened to me that still keeps me up at night. It didn't feel like déjà vu. It felt like I was remembering the future. And no matter what I did, I couldn't change what was coming. This happened in the summer of 2019. I live in a small town in southern Oregon, not far from the mountains. That summer, my best friend Max and I got into hiking, and we'd go looking for these weird abandoned spots people would post about online. There was one place everyone talked about, some old structure past the quarry, deep in the woods. They said it was like a concrete bunker, maybe an old lab or shelter. No one knew for sure. So one day in July, we decided to go find it. It was hot, probably in the high 80s, and we parked near an old dirt trail that hadn't been used in years. About 20 minutes into the walk, something started to feel off. I felt too familiar with the trail, like I had already been there, already walked it, already heard Max's dumb jokes about the bugs. Then I said something without thinking. "There's a crushed beer can on the log just ahead." Max laughed, but a few seconds later, there it was, rusted, dented, exactly like I pictured it. I didn't feel like I was remembering something. I felt like I was being warned about it. Eventually, we reached the structure, and it was exactly like I had seen it in my head, even though I had never seen a picture of it before. Concrete, windowless, covered in moss, the metal door hanging crooked off its hinges. Max was excited. He went straight for the entrance with his flashlight. I stayed back. Something was wrong. The air felt heavy. We stepped inside and found a big room with old shelves, rusted equipment, and this circular bolt pattern in the floor like something used to be anchored there. Then I said it. "We need to leave before the door closes." Max turned and asked, "What door?" Before I could answer, the metal door groaned and slammed halfway shut, echoing like a shotgun blast. We froze. There was no wind, no one outside, nothing that should have moved it. I bolted toward the exit, and Max followed. But just before I stepped out, I turned back, and that's when I saw it. A figure, standing perfectly still at the far end of the room. It wasn't there before. It didn't move. It just stood, watching. I didn't wait. That night, I had a dream. I was back inside the building, but it was darker, and that figure was closer. Each night after that, the dream returned, and every time, the figure stood a little nearer to me. Until one night, it reached out its hand. I woke up shaking, covered in sweat. And since then, I haven't gone back to that place. Max doesn't bring it up anymore, but he still asks me now and then how I knew the door would shut. And the truth is, I didn't. Not in any normal way. Sometimes I wonder if what we call déjà vu isn't memory at all, but warning from something deeper, something outside of time. And if I ever dream of that place again, I don't think I'll be able to leave. A few years ago, I came across a story online that's haunted me ever since. It was one of those tragic cases you'd assume would go cold, but somehow, a single Reddit comment from a total stranger helped crack it wide open, and the way it happened still sends chills down my spine. This happened in the summer of 2018, in a small town called Eatonville, Washington. A 66-year-old woman named Susan Rainwater had a routine of going for a bike ride every morning. Her husband, David, would usually see her off and wait for her to come back around the same time each day. But one morning, she didn't come home. David went out looking for her, and a few miles down the road, he came across her mangled bicycle in a ditch. Just a few feet away was Susan. She'd been hit by a car and left on the side of the road. By the time David found her, it was already too late. Police arrived shortly after, and it quickly became clear this was a hit and run. There were no nearby cameras, no witnesses, and barely any evidence left behind. The only thing they found at the scene was a small piece of black plastic, something that had broken off the suspect's car during the crash. The troopers had no idea what kind of vehicle it came from, and no way of identifying the driver. With nothing else to go on, one of the investigators turned to the internet for help. He posted a picture of the plastic piece on Reddit, asking if anyone recognized what kind of car it might have come from. At first, there wasn't much of a response. But then, it hit the "What is this thing" subreddit. And that's when things started happening fast. Within an hour, Redditors had figured out the piece came from a car's headlight bezel, the little trim piece around the headlight that lets you access the adjustment screws. But narrowing it down to a specific make and model, that was going to be a nightmare. There are hundreds of manufacturers, with thousands of different models, not to mention aftermarket parts. It seemed hopeless, until a Reddit user named Jeff's Nuts chimed in. As it turned out, Jeff was a vehicle inspector for the state of Maryland. And because of his job, he'd seen hundreds of headlight bezels over the years. He took one look at the picture and immediately recognized it. According to him, the part belonged to a 1988 Chevy Silverado. Police followed up on the tip, and within 5 days, they'd found the truck. It was owned by a 37-year-old man named Jeremy Thomas Simon. When police brought him in for questioning, his story changed multiple times. At first, he claimed he thought he'd hit a deer. Then he admitted he knew it was a person, but didn't stop because, and I quote, "I didn't want to see a body." Authorities also found a small bag of hard drugs in his truck, suggesting he might have been under the influence when the crash happened. In the end, he was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison. Not a long sentence for taking someone's life, but without that one Reddit comment from Jeff, he probably would have gotten away with it completely. And it's just one more reminder of how the internet and a total stranger can sometimes be the only thing standing between a criminal and justice. There's a certain kind of story you come across online that sticks with you for years. This was one of those. A disturbing mystery I followed in real time on Reddit, and to this day, no one knows what really happened after. It started with something small, but what it uncovered was terrifying. This happened back in October of 2024. I was scrolling through Reddit late one night when I saw a post in one of the mystery subreddits. The person who posted it said they'd noticed one of the electrical outlets in their apartment looked different. At first glance, it didn't seem like much. But something about the bottom ground port on the outlet wasn't quite right compared to the others in their place. What made it worse was the post's backstory. The original poster explained in the comments that they dealt with a stalker before, and someone had even broken into their apartment a while back. Because of that, they bought a camera detector for peace of mind, never actually thinking it would pick anything up, but when they scanned their place, it did. It picked up radio waves and reflected back infrared light from that one outlet. People in the comments immediately agreed something wasn't right. A few pointed out that it didn't match the other GFCI plugs in their building, and the way it reflected infrared was a huge red flag. I remember watching the post blow up in real time. Hundreds of comments within the first hour. And then, about 40 minutes after the post went live, someone confirmed what everyone was fearing. They tracked down the exact model online. It was a wireless hidden camera disguised as an outlet faceplate capable of streaming 4K video over Wi-Fi. It looked almost identical to a regular outlet, except for a tiny pinhole where the camera lens sat. The product listing made it clear. This wasn't some cheap novelty gadget. It was made for surveillance, and it wasn't meant to be noticed. Once the OP saw that comment, people started urging them to get out of the apartment immediately and call the police. Given their history with a stalker, it felt way too connected to be a coincidence. I remember refreshing the post over and over, waiting for updates, but none ever came. The OP had used a throwaway account one created solely to make that post, and after confirming their suspicions in the thread, they never posted again. No updates, no follow-up comments, nothing. People speculated for days afterward about what might have happened. Some thought the stalker might have been watching the Reddit post in real time. Others believed the OP had left immediately and stayed offline for their own safety. Either way, nobody ever found out what happened next. And that post just quietly faded into internet obscurity. But it still crosses my mind every now and then. A simple electrical outlet hiding something terrifying, and a person who may or may not have made it out in time. I used to think weird Reddit posts were just for fun. Rabbit holes, puzzles, Arkansas G's stuff people played along with but never took seriously. That changed in July of 2012, when I followed a thread that started as a quirky riddle and ended with someone disappearing after receiving death threats. To this day, no one knows what really happened. It started with a Reddit post from a user named Delver of Secrets. They posted to Ask Reddit with a strange story and a photo. Apparently, earlier that day, they were on the 1 train in Manhattan when a homeless-looking man bumped into them. As the man was getting off at 14th Street, he turned around, smiled, and handed them a folded note and a $50 bill. Before they could even say anything, he was gone. The note looked handmade, written on a 3x3 piece of paper with strange symbols, a grid of letters, and some weird shapes. No watermarks, no logos, nothing to identify where it came from. They uploaded pictures of the note and asked, "Does anyone know what this means?" I was hooked right away, so were thousands of others. Within hours, Reddit's best puzzle solvers were breaking the code. Turns out the note was written in something called a bifid cipher, a type of polygraphic substitution cipher used for hidden communications. When it was finally decoded, the message read, "There's plenty more money to make. Figure this out and prepare to meet. The 19th of July, 56 and 6. Hot dogs stand outside. Route 57 Cafe. Ask for Mr. Input." That alone would have been creepy enough. But then, Delver of Secrets got another message. This time, it was a private Reddit DM, also encrypted. When solved, it said, "You have managed to find the message with the help of friends. You changed the rules. Now so will I. The 12th of July, 4 p.m. Find the Blue Jay at 6.5 and 56. Tell him you are the last." If you've ever been to Manhattan, you know 6.5 Avenue is a real place C, weird pedestrian corridor that cuts between 6th and 7th. The puzzle just kept going deeper. Some Redditors believed it was viral marketing maybe for The Dark Knight Rises, which was releasing that same week. Others thought it might be some kind of government recruiting tactic. Why else use a cipher and military-style messaging? One person even converted the username of the Sende 222,944,379 reals into an IP address. It resolved to Fort Huachuca, an intelligence training facility in Arizona. That's when things went from weird to dangerous. A few days later, on the 12th of July, dozens of Reddit users, myself included, went to the meeting point just out of curiosity. It was surreal. Groups of strangers in street clothes huddled together, comparing notes, theories, trying to spot anything unusual. But nothing happened. No Mr. Input, no Blue Jay, no reveal. Everyone eventually gave up and left. It was disappointing until the next day. On the 13th of July, Delver of Secrets returned to the thread, but all the original content was gone. They replaced it with one short update. Received a phone call today threatening violence against me and my family. The caller named relatives and their addresses. They told me to delete the post and not to show up on the 19th. This will be my last message from this account before I delete it. I'm sorry if a resolution never happens, but I'm not willing to risk my family's safety. And just like that, they disappeared. The account was deleted. No new updates. No news coverage. Nothing. People tried to investigate, even years later, but no one's been able to confirm who Delver of Secrets was or what the messages were about. Some say it was all a game that went too far. Others believe it was something real, a test, a trap, or something far darker. But no one really knows. All we have left is a photo of that coded note, a Reddit thread full of dead links, and the chilling idea that maybe, just maybe, someone got too close to something they weren't supposed to see.